So this is probably a good opportunity for us to open the floor for some questions, and I may get us going, having been fortunate enough to visit the property on a few occasions over the last 20 years or so. One thing that's always struck me as remarkable about the geography of southwest Sicily and Cantina Settesoli is the sort of equidistance between North Africa and mainland Europe. And I'm very interested to understand and for you to share with the group from a winemaking and sort of, a viticultural perspective, the unique opportunities and challenges that dynamic represents for you.
I think it's, as every place in the world where we grow grapes, everything starts from the confidence that you have in your place and what you should do and everything. So I think it's that's the very hard work, because as you say, it's an amazing environment. So Mother Nature has been very generous there, because there is a lot of biodiversity. There are so many opportunities to deliver very good wines, but again, you need to understand that, you need to gain confidence in that, and confidence comes also from experience, from learning, from deepening your knowledge, and that's what we have developed in the last few years. But it's again, I hope one day in Sicily we will only make Sicilian wines with Sicilian grapes, and because that's what the world do. I hope, I think it's I don't want to exaggerate, but my mission, like everybody's mission, should be to encourage the consumer to understand Mother Nature diversity, and to create a world which one day is going to be more diverse, more exciting and more enjoyable. Because if you think of what we are drinking these days, we are only drinking probably no more than 20% of what Mother Nature could offer in terms of places and grapes. So we are drinking very little. We need to open this world. We need to, to create, a wider experience. And I think it's, Sicily has a lot to offer, because there's an amazing number of exceptional native grapes, which sometimes are difficult to sell because people don't know the name. That even when it comes to it's not easy to pronounce. Who cares, man? Who cares? People will learn how to pronounce it. I can't stop making a wine because it's not easy to pronounce. I've never heard the French being concerned about that. The French are by far #1 in the world in terms of confidence, and that's why they are the best. And so we need to do the same. And Sicily is a gold mine, as a soils, as a climate, as a grape variety. So it's just about us to gain the confidence and be able to deliver more and more the pure, authentic Sicilian flavors. And people has to experience that, not us manipulating and changing, because we are concerned with what the English like, the Japanese like, the American like. And when people start telling me that, I get lost. I say, I can't make wine with all that in mind, because I'm lost. I want to just stay focused on doing all the very best I can in every place when I'm involved in. That's all. And it will take some time. But I'm pretty optimistic, because I see the consumer is changing a lot. It's really changing a lot. And I remember in 2017 there was a great example of, I was saying before, people call me, interview me about climate change and everything. 17 was a very warm to hot vintage and very dry. And I remember I was experiencing a nice picture, which was on one side there was a dry farm Catarratto, and on the other side there was a drip irrigated Merlot. So the dry farm Catarratto, grown on 140R, which is the very classic rootstocks for dry desert-like environment, was performing very well. No sign of stress, no sign of anything. He was very happy. Catarratto is a Sicilian grape. It's there for thousands of years. The grape knows very well the kind of environment, because it's hot, it's dry and everything, and it was doing well. On the other side, there was a grape grown for the market, struggling. Even if with the irrigation was struggling, because the Merlot is not supposed to live in a hot or warm environment, because it's coming from a completely different environment. So that's why I'm saying we need to go back to, because 100 years ago there was not this problem, because each region was just growing what was doing well in every single part of the world. There was no other point. So we need to go back to that market, a market which is the place that is understanding and receiving all the mother natural diversity, if we want to be more green, if we want to be more environmental friendly. Because if you grow something which is not doing well, and you do that because the market is asking you that, then you have to use more water, more energy, more electricity, more you go against the principle of today, which we need to be more environmental friendly. Everything starts from that. Don't grow tomato in Holland because it costs you a fortune. It's against any logical, you know what I mean? And don't develop a golf course in Saudi Arabia. Go and play in Scotland. It's much cheaper. Catch the flight and and go there. And so that's what it's. I think through wine we understand a lot about how human beings should behave in the next years. Just respecting what we are provided with by Mother Nature at the end.
In terms of the community.
Yes.
So you're working across a percentage of more than 2,000 growers across 6,000 hectares of vineyard. As that
like 10%.
Yeah, and as that community kind of develops, how are you encouraging the next generation and the younger generation to be part of this innovation and progression?
I think it's the motivation. You immediately thing that can come from making more money, and that's obviously is one of the things. Obviously, if you grow better grapes, I pay you more because obviously you pay more attention to all you are doing in the vineyards. But on the other hand, we try very hard because also in the board there are farmers as well, because in the board of the co-op there are several farmers. And so we try to involve them in the concept of what we are doing. It's not just paying them more. And we try to explain them our approach to the making of wine, our concept, our beliefs. And that's great to see how they like to share it. You need to be very close to them. You cannot just pay more and go. So that's why sometimes we invite them, and we let them part of the results we achieve. Sometimes with some of them we are more passionate, we taste the wine together. So you need to involve them in the whole process. And I think it's working very well, because the newer generation, obviously they are more, they understand more what we are talking about, going back to more native grapes and going back to a more natural or traditional farming. So they're more interested, and we are very optimistic looking forward, because we believe that what we are doing is really something that they now start to understand, and they really enjoy being part of.
Could you give us like a compare and contrast if we were presenting the Bertolino Soprano to someone that's just set in their ways of only drinking California Chardonnay or something like that? Because this was the first time I've tasted this wine, and I think it was a home run. And it has tons of opportunity in New Jersey where everyone is Chardonnay, Chardonnay, Chardonnay. That's all I drink is Chardonnay. And I think this could replace a lot of those opportunities in some of these wine shops and also on premise.
I think it's when you introduce a different or new wine to somebody who has been drinking, like an oaky Napa Valley Chardonnay forever, you have to start with respect, because respect for what he or she has been doing, because it's we are not saying that they are wrong. You need to expose them to a different concept without saying that what he or she has been doing is wrong, because it's not wrong. First of all, it's not wrong, because I have a lot of respect for any. To me, we need to. That's an important point. We need not to confuse quality with style. There are two different issues. So we are talking more about style than quality, because there are a lot of Napa Valley Oaky Chardonnay which have very good quality. So they are coming from vineyards which are very well managed, and everything is done with a lot of care. It's just the style that is a different style and has got a different concept, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad wine. So this is a wine, I think it's like when you want to promote something you believe in, you never start criticizing some other, you just have to, deliver what you believe in. So if I should introduce this wine to a consumer of Napa Valley Chardonnay, I should say that this is a wine that has been made with a different concept. We believe that we are lucky to be in an amazing environment with great limestone soils, like in Burgundy, beautiful climates, very dry, very healthy environment, because when there is not much humidity, there are less disease pressure. So it's a more natural farming, it's a very natural farming, and we try to do all the best to deliver to you the essence of this combination of soil, plant, and climate. And you don't have to say you must like it, but it's just try to convince the person to do a different experience, because experiencing is what is enriching you. In life you grow if you experience a lot. If you never experience anything, it's very likely that you don't grow much inside yourself. So it's and I'll be very, very gentle and very respectful first, never saying and this is just a different kind of experience. This is a grape that is providing you with this beautiful freshness, with these different layers of there are some a little bit of stone fruit, but more like some floral notes, some more fresh fruit. There is different layers of complexity, and that's it, just to encourage to experience something else, and that's what I would do.
Perfect, thank you.
You mentioned ageability. The Cartago and the Narrows, especially the new
Terra del Sommaco, yeah.
How long do you think you could age these wines?
I know as much as you do, because it's the first time we make it, but no, just kidding. I believe that, I have no experience with the ageability of this wine, obviously, so all I can say is what you can say tasting this wine, because it's a 3-year-old wine. I'm very happy with the way it's evolving, but thinking of the wine itself, obviously having a very low pH, because we are talking about like 3.2, which most people, if you tell them before, they wouldn't drink it because they would be scared, it's too acidic. And a very good acidity, like over 7. To me, this is, a very good indicator of a great, ageability and longevity of the wine, for sure. If you look at just to mention some famous, like Italian, very old wines, like Biondisanti Brunello, for example. If you look at the great Biondisanti Reserve, that still now, you taste in 1925 or 19, they are still fresh and beautifully evolved. They are wines which have very low pH and very high acidity. So in a way, I think it's the acidity and the high acidity and the low pH, for sure, they should give the wine an amazing longevity. That's what I guess. And I see that happening in the bottle more and more, but.
So that's the first vintage, right there. So that's a project that you collaborated with and started.
Yeah. I started working in 2014, and it took the first basically 3 years were years in which we all tried to understand more in depth the details of our micro terroir, and then in 16 we were ready to start making the first wine, which is the result of this micro terroir study, and we choose this. It's an amazing spot, near Santa Margherita, and very, very limestoney soil. Limestone is, in general, are the best soils in the world are the decomposed mother rock. Okay, so decomposed mother rock are those who are providing the very best wine in the world. Either if the mother rock is a granite, is a schist, is a limestone, or is a basalt. And in general, the very best terroir are those in which you combine very well, as we say, the beef and the bone. So a great wine should have a bit of both. So the bone is the mother rock and the stones, which are providing the wine with a lot of minerals, and they're giving the wine energy, vitality, and what we call minerality. The beef is the clay, which is very important, which is the structure and the texture, which is coming from the elements that the vine roots absorb from the clay. And that's to be a very good clay, like montmorillonite, not clay for making the bricks, which is not good clay for wine. So the montmorillonite is the clay that has got, is like mille foglie. I don't know if saying, mille foglie, which is, it's very well structured, and within the layers there are all these minerals, and the vine roots get into them and they absorbs, the nutrients responsible for the beef. So a great wine is a combination of beef and bone. This is coming from Pedro Parra, not from me. So I had to say that, otherwise he asked me the royalties. And but this, I think, is a very good description, because it's pretty much, and if you look at the very best terroir in the world, because if the soil has got too much bones, so pure rock, you get a lot of tension, but you miss a little bit of the richness in the mouth. And if it's only clay, only beef and no bone, the wine doesn't get the energy and the vitality and the voltage that you get when you also have some bone. So this is a little bit and I think here is the first year. We will be followed by the 17, which is also, we are gonna bottle it. Made the blend already when I was there last, and it's very, very good too.
The wine's incredible. It's amazing the differences from a wine, tasting the two expressions in Neradava, the one that aged for 16 or 18 months in total, and this one was almost twice as long, but felt like a much younger wine.
It is. To be honest, I always tell to my friends who are chefs, some of them, that they are very lucky compared to people who makes wine, because they can try and change the plate a few times in a day. I can only make some adjustment once per year. So the process of making a very, very good premium wine is a long process. And if you look at the history, and if you read the history of some icon wines in the world, the first 10 years, they were just experiments. So, and nothing we can do about. I mean, we need to be patient. We need to, to follow the Mother Nature time, and but no, we are lucky. As a beginning, I think is very good, and I see a nice progression in the next vintages, and so.
It's a pretty critical time right now. We see all over the world with a lot of discussion about climate change, about respect for the environment. Greta Thunberg's just about to be on the front page of Time magazine, and clearly, you guys are practicing a fair amount of respect. You talked about Mother Nature a lot today, which has been great. Beyond necessarily the treatments in the vineyard, which I think we've understood well from your direction. Beyond that, where do you see the responsibility that the wine industry has within agriculture and the Mandrarossa project specifically for being a part of the solution rather than a part of the problem?
To me, climate change is a big issue. In my vision, all we can do is to go back to a traditional farming, to go back to the use of local grapes, and that's pretty much all. Obviously, there is another issue which could be, but is mainly coming from from the Bordeaux colonization, spreading all over the world the same grapes. And also maybe in some regions, when you start experiencing problems with the classic grape varieties, just move on to varieties which are more, less susceptible to the heat. And that's also something that I see happening more and more. So what we call the Mediterranean grape varieties, they are more used to go through dry years, or because with the climate change is basically that. What we are experiencing is that the lack of mid-season, so you switch from winter to summer, and very extreme situation like you may have the same amount of rain, but the distribution of the rain is no longer the same. So you get a lot of rain until April, and then you have like 3 months in a row with no rain, which is something we are not used to. And I think it's there are some grapes which are more, easy to grow in that kind of situation. But in general, if we could go, so what I'm asking to the market is not to ask us to do what they want, but just let us do the best we can do considering the climate change, which is basically to create a stronger vine, a stronger vineyard. How? Feeding them with better food, let the root system go a lot deeper. I'm insisting on the root system because the root system is the key. Why? For example, if you are experiencing a dry summer, if your root system is very deep and spread out, obviously deep down, there is not the same level of variation in terms of humidity that you have in the topsoil, right? Because deep down, the humidity stays, there's less variation of temperature and humidity. So why the old vines are resisting much better difficult situation? Because the root system is very, very deep. So we need to encourage the vineyards to develop very, very deep and fine spread out roots, because that helps a lot to go through troubles, any kind of troubles. And then if you stop the use of poisons and you have a more alive soil and you have a more alive and more healthy vine, because I was speaking about the soil, but also in the upper part, what has been devastating has been the use of systemic spraying agents to protect the crop from downy or powdery mildew. And this systemic, what they do, they get into the sap, they circulate into the vine sap, and apparently they can protect the vines there for 2 weeks instead of spraying more often if you use only external products like copper. But people don't know that by using that systemic, you kill all the natural antibodies of the vines. So the vines become, very weak, and they are unable to protect themselves unless you give them the drugs. So they become addicted to drugs. So to me, the problem of climate change is let's create a much better, stronger, vineyard. And the only way is remove the poison, have a deeper spread out root system, have a lot of microbiology in the soil, and use traditional rootstocks and traditional grape varieties. That's all you can do.
Okay.
I don't believe, now they're also trying to breed and, take a little bit of the gene of that and put in, and I also doubt a lot all the times that, because when I have a lot of young people asking me, what should I study, what should I do to make great wines? My answer is always, don't study viticulture and winemaking at the beginning. Study a lot of botany, plant physiology, biochemistry, microbiology, soil science, and understand how the whole things work. And then you start doing something, having clear the principles, because when you study viticulture and winemaking, they teach you very industrial and very conventional viticulture and winemaking. And they show you a picture in which you are scared by Mother Nature that they told you is wrong and we need to fix it, which is absolutely wrong. I don't believe at all in the science which goes through Monsanto, Bayer, BASF, etc., because their goal is not to create a stronger system. Actually, it's the other way around. They make you dream because they fix immediately one problem, but they don't tell you that one problem they fix, they generate 3 more. And that's what they live on. So I studied in Florence, in Bordeaux, and UC Davis. I studied too much viticulture and winemaking. All I'm doing now is coming from my personal study of botany, plant physiology. I'm inspired by the forest to see how the forest works, why the forest is something that lives forever. You never fertilize, and every year is giving you fruit. Like, for example, I grew up in a place I had an oak tree forest, and the oak tree, what was the name of the fruit? The acorn. And I remember I used to harvest them taking them from the ground, put in bags and sell to the farmers, because it's the best food for the pigs if you want to make a very good prosciutto, very good ham. And then I was going in summer on the Apennines, and I was living in the middle, in a remote place in summer, in the middle of the chestnut forest. And a few years ago, I started thinking, why an oak tree forest, every year is growing a lot of acorn, you take it away, and you never fertilize the forest. The forest is living forever, it never gets sick. And you look at the ground, and the ground is exactly, the dirt is exactly the opposite they teach you to manage when you have a vineyard. So the vineyard that they teach you to manage is a desert, all compact, no life, no microbiology, superficial roots. I call them walking on the moon vineyards. It's a nice police song. And then you ask yourself why the oak tree forest is living hundreds of years, every year is growing beautiful fruit that you take away, and is living forever. And I remember my mother telling me, when you go and harvest the acorn, remember to take some soil for my flower pots, because it's the most fertile soil, the one in the forest, and never been fertilized, never, zero. And then you go to the mountain, and the same, there were not one chestnut left on the ground, because people in the mountain, they live on, the chestnut flowers is the bread, is the main food for them. And again, you see these amazing forests living forever, never been fertilized, but you see the ground, and this is exactly the opposite that they teach you to manage when you develop a vineyard. So, thinking of a vineyard, if I try hard to get as close as possible to an oak tree forest or a chestnut forest, doing what? First of all, if you had to understand, the vine is growing three things: shoots, leaves, and grapes, okay? Shoots and leaves stay there. You do the pruning, you crushing, leave, so you don't take away them, which is fine, it's all biomass that stay there. Then you take the fruit to the winery, you made the wine, and by the time you finish the whole process, if you return to the vineyard, the skins and the stems, which are after composting, fermenting, etc., what are you taking away from the vineyard? Basically the juice, because what stays in the in the winery is only the juice. And the juice is what? 75% is water, the big remaining part is sugar, which is formed by the photosynthesis, so chlorophyll, the green part of the leaves, CO2 and sunlight, and you had that every year, plus some minerals, some organic acid, but in a healthy soil you had them forever. So when you think about that and you ask yourself why the old vineyards that are still now alive, and you can find them planting in I work in Argentina with 130 years old Malbec vines, I work in Rioja with 120 years old wine. I work in Armenia with 300 years old wines. Why all these vineyards are so old? Because they were managed this way. So basically, and when you switch from that natural traditional farming to the more modern university farming, the life switched from 130 to 25. So all we had to do is to recreate the environment that has allowed the vineyard to live so long. Ask yourself, and if you see, when I go to Mendoza, for example, and you see the picture, on one side, 130 years old Malbec vines, on the other side, 25 years old, and the vineyard is dead. Who developed the 130 years old one? Was he a viticulturist studying at the university? No, were Pablo, Pedro, and Juan with few teeth and a broken heart. But they had an amazing spirit of observation. They had experience, and that's what we need to recover. So basically, back to your question, I think there are some answers already from the past. We need to recover them. I'm living very close to Vinci, where Leonardo da Vinci, the genius, was born. And I'm a big lover. I like his work, and that, obviously he's. But what is amazing, he was born in a very remote place, 500 years ago, and he had no education until the age of 17, and then he moved to Florence and started studying a little bit, and then he went to Milan and then to France and studied a lot. But what he said at the end of his life, he said, all my best invention and thoughts and dreams and everything came by observing what I had around when I was a child. So it was Mother Nature. Insects, birds, trees, rivers, whatever. And they said, and I have realized that sometimes observation that I developed a lot because I didn't have any education, so the only way to learn was observing. Observation sometimes explaining you what science cannot explain to you. And that's what we need to recover, you know what I mean? The experience, the observation, getting closer to the soil, to the vines, to the climate, because we are all robots, managed by Monsanto, Bayer and BASF, and you see the farmers today, they have an Excel paper and it's all remote, they spray these, and they don't understand anything of all these principles because you never learn them when you study viticulture at university. So all we need to do is to recover that. And that's the only thing we can do to improve the strength and the healthiness of the vineyards looking forward and having this type of climate change.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the group? Very good. So just a few closing words, if I may. I think the words that kind of resonate for me that Alberto's been kind of taking us through is integrity, respect for the territory. Clearly, the work you're doing there is you're a true custodian of the territory as a technician, as an artist, and it shows through in the incredible improvements that have come through in these wines in the last few years. And we as Palm Bay, as a group of salespeople, are very excited to take these wines to the market. We certainly feel that we have a fantastic selection and representation of Southwest Sicily and the remarkable terroir that you guys work every single day, and the diversity, the innovation, and coupled with that clear respect for tradition that's kind of resonated throughout this experience that you've given us today, is we will take to market and communicate that out through our customers, and truly fly the flag for the fantastic work that you guys are doing down there. As I said, I started working with these wines in 2001 when I was a buyer for a gastropub group in London, and so we're going back 20 years, and it's just an absolute privilege to see these go from where that project started nearly 2 decades ago, and to where they are today. And I just think Palm Bay as a true fine wine company has an incredible opportunity here to continue to work with you guys and really express the phenomenal quality and innovation that we have here. So thank you so much for being here. I'm sure everybody would love to give you a big round of applause for your time. And